Today's episode is brought to you by Proud Wolves. It is Proud Wolves' mission to make sure children all over the world have free access to cultural activities and sport. Proud Wolves helps organizations to change their income models and stops them relying on membership fees for children. Find Proud Wolves on Facebook for more information. Now, get ready for your All-NBA Team of the Week.
Goeiedag, enchantée, and welcome to this week's episode of 824 Presents All-NBA Team of the Week. The biggest news this week came on Friday, when the All-Star starters for both conferences were announced. In this episode, we break format a bit, because we will take the time to discuss the 10 players selected by the fans, media, and players. The All-Star reserves will be unveiled on Tuesday, but you can have our selection today. Before we dive into all of that, let's recap some of the great performances this week. On Monday, Julius Randle of the Knicks and Ben Simmons of the Sixers both put their application in for All-Star Team reserves. Randle blew away the Hawks with 44 points and 9 rebounds. Simmons made 42 points, gave 12 assists, and grabbed 9 rebounds against the Jazz. On Tuesday, Jokic laid in 43 points in a loss against Boston. And on Wednesday, it was Dame time. Lillard made 43 points against the Pelicans, pushing the Blazers to a 6-game winning streak and 4th spot in the Western Conference. All this with 2 of their most important players out with injuries. And on Friday, Joel Embiid of the Sixers made it clear that LeBron has major competition in the race for MVP. He made 50 points in a win against the Bulls, grabbed 17 rebounds, and scored 15 out of 17 free throws. His scoring stats are off the charts this season, and because of it, Philly sits comfortably in 1st spot in the East. What a difference with last season. Those were some of the biggest storylines of the last week. Now, let's get into the All-Star selections. An important thing to remember, the selections are from the Eastern and Western Conference, but we will not see an East versus West game this season. Like last year, the 2 captains get to pick their teams from the whole selection. Before we move on, I'd like to talk to you about 824. 824 was created by Proud Wolves with the intention to provide children with an opportunity to learn and play basketball at their own pace and completely free. 824 created different courses to improve your basketball skills that are available on the website, but our real mission is to help disadvantaged children by building and upgrading basketball courts around the world, and to give them basketball gear to play with. Come and find our website and please buy a t-shirt to support our cause. Now back to All-NBA Team of the Week. First, we'll take a look at the starters in the Eastern Conference. Kevin Durant immediately reclaimed his spot among the most popular players in the league after not playing basketball for 18 months because of an Achilles injury. He was voted as captain of the Eastern Conference All-Stars because he received the most fan votes of all the East Coast players, which counted for 50% of the total number. The other 50% is divided between media votes and active player votes. KD is having a great season, putting up stats that eclipse his career averages and playing a huge part in Brooklyn's successful start of the season. The 32-year-old is the leader on that team of superstars, one of the best players in the league and very deserving of his 11th All-Star selection. He's currently out with a hamstring injury, but he has 2 weeks to get back on his feet. The other 4 starters from the East are Bradley Beal from the Wizards, Kyrie Irving from the Nets, Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Bucks, and Joel Embiid from the Sixers. No big surprises there. These are 4 of the biggest names in the league. Personally, I would have preferred to see James Harden in the starters list over his teammate Kyrie, because since his move to the Nets, James has been really entertaining to watch. Of the East Coast starters, Kyrie is the only player that hasn't made one of my Team of the Week selections, but he's definitely deserving of his 7th selection to the All-Star team. Bradley Beal returns to the All-Star game for the 3rd time after being snubbed from the game last season. Giannis, captain last year, has to take a step back in his 5th selection, but is still one of the most dominant players in the league. And Embiid is just having an amazing season and is already up to his 4th All-Star selection in his young career. Is it a surprise that LeBron James received the most votes in the West? It shouldn't be, because it is the 7th time in his 17 selections for the All-Star game that he received the most votes in the whole league. Only Michael Jordan does better. He was the most popular vote 9 times in his career. LeBron leads the West, just like he did last year when he was picked captain as well. His team won the game, one of the best All-Star games we have seen in recent history. Changing the game format to the Elam ending was one of the better ideas the league implemented over the years. Both teams compete to win each quarter, and after 3 quarters, their total scores are added, and in the final quarter both teams play, untimed, until one of the 2 teams makes the total score of the winning team plus 24 points, an homage to Kobe. The result last year was fantastic. Let's hope we get a similar game this season. The other 4 starters in the West are Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic. No Damian Lillard, the guy that has been carrying the Blazers on his own for over a month. This is where the fan voting can be a bit unfair. Luka has not been playing great this season, but he has the European votes behind him. Lillard, playing in a small market like Portland, has no chance in a popularity contest against an international star like Luka. But Luka is a fantastic player and he deserves to be in the All-Star game for the second time. The other guys are no surprise. Steph is having one of his best seasons ever and is rewarded with his 7th selection. Kawhi has been doing what he always does, quietly dominating his opponents, and he receives his 5th selection. And Jokic, 3rd most popular player in the West this season, is selected for the 3rd time. Before we move on, I'd like to talk to you about A24. A24 was created by Proud Wolves with the intention to provide children with an opportunity to learn and play basketball at their own pace and completely free. A24 created different courses to improve your basketball skills that are available on the website, but our real mission is to help disadvantaged children by building and upgrading basketball courts around the world, and to give them basketball gear to play with. Come and find our website, and please buy a t-shirt to support our cause. Now back to All-NBA Team of the Week. Those were the All-Star starters. The reserves are picked by the coaches on Tuesday. In the meantime, we'll go into our favorites for the final 7 spots on each team. To me, the All-Star game is a game for the fans. It's about entertainment. I don't mind that flamboyant players get picked over better, but more boring players. Best example I can bring up here is Chris Middleton. He's a great player and invaluable to the Milwaukee Bucks. Yet, I've not picked him to be part of my reserves because there are other, worse players that are a lot more exciting to watch. The 3 All-NBA teams at the end of the season reward the best players, but the All-Star selection should go to the most exciting players. In my selection for the Eastern All-Star reserves, there are 5 guys that I didn't have to think twice about. James Harden of the Nets, Jaylen Brown of the Celtics, Julius Randle of the Knicks, Ben Simmons of the Sixers, and Jimmy Butler of the Heat. These guys have been playing exceptional basketball and deserve to be part of the selection. That left me with 2 spots to fill, and I had 9 players shortlisted. The first one to drop off were Trae Young of the Hawks and Jeremy Grant of the Pistons. Both players are playing well, but not quite at the same level as my other picks. Bam Adebayo was an easy cut because Miami doesn't really deserve a second All-Star this season. The next 3 cuts were Nikola Vucevic, Domantas Sabonis, and Chris Middleton. Each of them so important to their team, but you don't really change your channel to watch them specifically, and that's why they miss out this year. Finally, I dropped Jason Tatum because the Celtics, just like Miami, don't deserve a second All-Star at the moment, and Jaylen Brown has been playing so well this season. This leaves me with Zach LaVine of the Bulls and Gordon Hayward of the Hornets that make the selection. Picking the Western All-Star reserves was a lot easier than picking the reserves in the East. 6 spots were filled up very quickly, but the final spot did give me a slight headache. I considered 7 players: DeMar DeRozan of the Spurs, Devin Booker of the Suns, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Thunder, De'Aaron Fox of the Kings, Mike Conley of the Jazz, Christian Wood of the Rockets, and Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. Quite frankly, I'm still not 100% sure of my selection at this point, and I might likely change during this podcast. Of those 7 players, I ended up with DeMar DeRozan because he has been very important to the great start of the Spurs this season, and that's something that nobody expected. But all of these guys have been playing amazing basketball so far this season, and they all deserve a spot on the roster. Unfortunately, there's not enough room. Next to DeRozan, my other picks are Damian Lillard of the Blazers and Donovan Mitchell of the Jazz. Both great guards, and they have led their teams to a much higher spot in the West than anticipated. I picked Paul George of the Clippers because, just like his teammate Kawhi, he has kept quiet and proved himself on the court. Rudy Gobert of the Jazz is another pick because he's the best big man in the West after Jokic. My 6th pick was for Chris Paul of the Phoenix Suns, maybe the biggest surprise of the season so far. Booker has been great for the Suns, but Paul is the engine for that team, and he's the main reason for the turnaround. Finally, my last pick is for Anthony Davis of the LA Lakers. Davis hasn't been playing that well, and now he's out injured, but he deserves the selection nonetheless. I don't want to wish harm on anyone, but honestly, I'm hoping that AD will knock back his invitation for the All-Star game to take some extra time to recover from his injury. That will make room on the team for Zion Williamson of the Pelicans. Zion has finally started to play well in the last few weeks and is so spectacular that you can't imagine an All-Star game without him. This is our All-NBA Team of the Week. Please share our podcast and give us 5 stars. If you have any questions, you can contact the show on a24office@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Ballers out.